Good morning, folks. Once again, another reaction video. Yesterday I was watching a video on the channel called O'Shea Duke Jackson. If you haven't seen him, check him out. I think he calls his material the celebrity junk. Yesterday he was talking about mixed relationships. As you could see by the title of the my video, he made a statement. He said that most black men who date outside the race don't talk about the downside of dating outside your race. Well, I am not most black men, and I have spoken about this twice. Once I made a video on this very subject. I can't even remember the name of it, it's so long ago. And also I talk about this in length in my audiobook, Tales from the Little Black Book, One Man's Journey on the Dating Scene, available on Rakuten Kobo. Anyway, so as I said, I am not most men, so I'm going to talk about the downside of dating outside your race today. So, despite the fact that here in the UK, I have received the most warmest welcome from women outside my race, I've received the most attention from women outside of my race, despite the fact that the best times I've had in terms of romance, and definitely in sex, 100% in sex, is by the hands of women from outside of my race. Despite the fact that I was fortunate enough to have a long-term relationship with an Italian woman who not only invited me out to Italy twice, but on the second occasion, I actually stayed with her parents. And the parents took to me so well that her mum tried to feed me to death. However, despite all of that, I'm not so naive to think that her parents are the rule. I knew that they were the exception to the rule. So much so that when I was invited to Italy the first time, it took me 3 weeks to come to a decision. This is back in 1996. I spoke about this to my friends, thinking, should I go to Italy? Why was I concerned about going out to Italy? Because I had concerns of, you know, walking around Italy, Rome, wherever she came from at the time, holding hands with a white woman. Now, in London, if you don't know already, it's the mixed race or interracial dating capital of the world. So in London, mixed relationships or interracial dating is old news. Most people don't really give a crap because it's nothing here. It really is nothing. It's so usual. It's just, but once you step outside of London, now that's a complete different story. Yeah. So yeah. So I'm going to talk about the downsides. Downside one, of course, the parents. Most of the time, not all the time, most of the time, the problem is going to come from her side of the fence. I could definitely speak for my family, right? Because despite whatever issues I may have with my parents, one thing I can proudly say, in my family, we was never taught hate, not racial hatred, never. That was not instilled in us, not a part of my culture. So if there's going to be a problem with color issues, it's not going to come from my side of the fence. So that's downside number one. Right, problem number two. Now, this problem is quite nuanced because it really does depend on the type of woman you are with, because there's a different sort of situation with a white middle-class woman compared to a white working class woman and a woman who is non-black. See, I've experienced all three, so I've got a different scenario with all three of them. There's different aspects with all three, but let's start off with the middle class white woman. So now you're with a white middle-class woman and you walk into a bar or a pub, and the first thing you notice is the stares that you're getting. But because your experience in terms of receiving bigotry and racism, you know the different types of stares. You are experienced enough to discern the different types of looks that you get. You know the difference between, oh, that's a nice couple, or I've never seen him before. He's not from around here. Or you know that, oh, what's she fucking doing with that nigger? You know that you know that it because you got the experience, right? But unfortunately for the lady you with, it's just when she was like, when I've been in this situation, when I've walked into a bar and I've noticed the stairs, especially when I was up in a place called Matlock, a very picturesque town, and I looked at her to see what's her reaction from the stairs. It was like as though, you know, those Western movies and the saloon bar, and you got the man playing the piano, and then the local bad boy now walks into the saloon bar. He opens those doors, and then the music slowly stops, and everyone stops and stares at this bad gunslinger, and he's walking in the saloon, and he goes up to the bar and, give me a whiskey. And everyone's like, oh my God, we're gonna get some trouble there. You know, there's gonna be a shoot. Everyone's like, oh. Well, it was akin to a scene like that when I walked into this beautiful little pub in picturesque Matlock. It was like as though I was some kind of gunslinger, and everyone was like looking at me. So I looked at her to see her reaction. And she was oblivious to it. She was in cloud la white privilege land, right? Because she wouldn't have the vision, because she's never been in the situation where she receives bigotry or racism or any form of hate. And what made it worse is because she's blue-eyed, blonde hair, she's right on the other end of the scale. She is the ultimate white person, where white supremacy is absolutely geared for that sort of look. So doors would absolutely open for that description, right? So she was completely oblivious to it. Okay, I didn't say anything in that situation, but other situations where I have mentioned the scenarios with other equally middle-class women, I've had the reaction of denial now. Oh, you've got a chip on your shoulder. You need to get over this. You've got a chip on your shoulder. Or they try to tell me about the situation that I've been in, like the time when I went to hire a car. I rang up the car hire place. Everything was fine and dandy on the phone. But when I actually got there to hire the car now, to pass over my money, all of a sudden now there was a problem now. There was a problem why I couldn't hire the car. When I told the woman I was with at the time, she's, oh, no, it wasn't racism, it was you. And I thought, I said to her, but hold a minute. I was the one that was there. You wasn't there. I was there. And you were trying to educate me about a situation that I've experienced, and in a scenario that you have never experienced, but you're trying to teach me about something that I have more experience than you, and you're trying to tell me that I'm being paranoid, and you're trying to tell me what the situation was when I was the one that was in it. So I thought to myself, wow, if I have a child with you, but we're gonna come to children. That's downside number 3 coming, but we'll come to that. So I thought, whoa, gee, so the downside with a woman like that, say you walk into a bar, especially if you walk into a rough bar. I mean, the one in Matlock, it was quite posh. It was quite picturesque, so-called very nice people. But if I was to walk into, I don't know, the wrong side of, Nottingham, or say, for example, Essex and Kent. If you're not familiar with the UK, Essex and Kent historically were the places of white flight. So a lot of people left London in the 50s and so forth, especially when the Windrush came over to London. And for those white people, there's too many black people, too many people of color coming in, and you had the Great White Flight, and they went out to Essex and Kent. So unfortunately, Essex and Kent has the reputation for harboring a lot of racists. So if you got to a pub like in Essex or Kent with a white, and you're getting those hostile stares, right? She would be the last person to know that you're in danger, right? The only time she would know you're in danger is when it's too late, when that bottle's already flying across the room, or when someone shouts out nigger. That's the only time she's going to figure it out. If you take, oh, well, look, I don't feel comfortable here. I want to leave, right? If it's a white middle-class woman who's been used to privilege, you could, not all the time, you could get, and then you got to argue with her and explain, look, this, why you feel this way as such, right? And that's a problem. That's a problem, because she can't see it. Those who knows it feels it, and because she doesn't know it, she don't feel it. So that's problem. That's one side of problem number 2. Now we come to the working class white woman. Now with her, it depends on a few things. If she's an inner city working class white woman, there's going to be, it could go one or two ways with her, right? But if she's from out of town, she lives like in the Shires, or she lives in Essex or Kent, well, then she's more or less like the middle class white woman. It's the same kind of scenario. Now with a working class white woman, when it comes to, for example, now with her parents, for example, it could go one or two ways. They could either be traditionally like your traditional white racist parents who don't like niggers or packies and wogs and so forth, right? So it could go that way. But it could go the other way, the opposite end, because they're working class and they come from the inner city. They're used to mixing with people of color. They've got lots of friends. They socialize with a lot of people of color. So she would be like down with the brothers and sisters. Her parents would have lots of friends who are of people of color. So you could waltz in and out of her house and they wouldn't have a problem with you. So, and because she's working class, and especially if she's got like a few tattoos and stuff like that and piercings, she would have experienced a form of discrimination in her life. So if you said to her, like say you walked into a bar or something, you said to her, oh, like, I don't feel comfortable here because I'm getting stares and so forth, she's more likely going to take you seriously. She's more likely going to not give you any vegan hassle and say, yeah, okay, well, as you're not feeling comfortable, yeah, let's get out of it, because she knows what it's like to experience some form of discrimination. So she's not going to really sort of put up too much of a backlash on your feedback. So that's the difference between a working class white woman compared to a middle class white woman. Right, so now we come to a woman who's non-black. Like, for example, I've dated I've dated 5 Asian women, and when I say Asian, I'm talking about South Asia, and all 5 of them have links with India. Oh boy. Anyway, right now, I talk about this in my book, Where I Am Full of Shit. Okay, I'll come to the full of shit business in a minute. Okay, right. So the advantage with a non-white woman who's not black, right? Because she would have experienced, especially if she's like Asian, I mean, the politically incorrect word, if you're dating a packie, right? Because she's experienced racism herself, she would notice the stares. She would absolutely absolutely have your back. Likewise with a black woman. If you and a black woman walked into the wrong bar, you wouldn't even have to say anything. You just have to just look at her, and she would look at you, and you both get, and you both nod, yeah, okay. You just disappear. Asian woman, yeah, I think, yeah. She would, you would look at her and say, oh, fuck me, I don't know about here, and she would say, yeah, I see what you mean. Let's get out of here, right? So that's the advantage, right? Now, but the disadvantage, we got to go back to the parents. Now, this is where I'm full of I'm so full of shit. I am so full of shit. I've mentioned this. Now, I have a few issues. I have a few problems. One of the problems I have a prejudice problem. I've never been a racist. I'll never be a racist. But racism is different to prejudice. I do have a prejudice problem. And I prejudge really badly, and it's something I try to get on top of, but I find it very hard to get on top of it because most of the time I'm proven right. I give the person their 15 minutes of fame and they prove me right. I prejudge what I think they're going to do and they go and do it. So it's hard for me to get out of prejudging people. Anyway, so where I'm full of shit is I absolutely love curvaceous Middle Eastern women. Oh, I love them. I love them. I love them. They are one of my favorite types. I absolutely, there's a Middle Eastern woman who lives in Hanwell, West London, and I fancied her for years. Oh my God, I just fancied her for years. First time I saw her back in 1991. When I came out of a shop, I was like, oh, the time stood still. I absolutely fancied her. But why didn't I approach her? Why haven't I ever approached her? Because I thought to myself, oh, Middle Eastern. Oh, here we go. One, likelihood of her not being into black men is quite high. So that's hurdle number one. If she's okay with me, boy, her relatives sure the fuck ain't gonna be, excuse my language, sorry about that. Her relatives sure the hell is not gonna be okay with me because that culture she comes from are not known for being welcoming towards black people, I'm afraid. That's the reputation they have, like as such, hence why my backside is not in a hurry to go to any Middle Eastern countries as such. So, I think, wow, the relatives, do I need all the hassle from her cousins, her brothers? Oh my God, I don't need the aggro, you know, and, you know, I'm going to be facetious here. I don't really mean what I'm going to say, but I love my limbs. I don't want my arms cut off. I know I'm just being silly. I'm being silly here, but yeah, you kind of get what I'm getting. So I'm thinking, nah. I'm not prepared to walk through that minefield and have my legs blown off by approaching a Middle Eastern woman, much as I love them, right? But here is where I'm full of shit because I have no problems dating a woman who originates from India. I had no problems approaching dating those 5 women who originate from India. And the same thing could apply to them that applies to the Middle Eastern women. This is why I'm full of shit. And I don't know what to say about that because, you know, I had no problems approaching them. Maybe because I think what it is, in the nightlife scene, you get more South Asians, like in the bars and stuff, than you do get Middle Eastern. I suppose if there were more Middle Eastern women around that were mixing, then probably a situation would arise and I would probably, you know, in that setting, I would probably approach one and so forth. But I don't really come across them in the bars. I don't really come across them in the clubs when I was partying in the clubs. I don't really come across them in parties. Whereas a woman who originates from India or Pakistan, I do come across them in clubland. I do come across them in bars. I do come across them in social settings. And of course, you know, if if a woman gives me choosing signs, which I've had choosing signs from these very said women, I'm a man. I'm going to go over there. I'm going to talk to them and so forth. Now, I'm going to tell you something about these women. This is why I laughed about the 5 Asian women I have dated. All 5 of them has one thing in common. They absolutely are anti-Asian culture, and they absolutely were anti-Asian men. In the black community, we have this phrase, self-hate. I tell you what, the things that they were saying about their own community and the Asian men, I had to step in and defend their community and defend the Asian men. I said, whoa, hold on a minute. Whoa, back off a minute. I mean, you can't say that. You can't apply that at all. Black women who are watching this, who accuse black men who don't find black women attractive of self-hate, trust me, the word that came out of the mouths of these 5 Asian women in terms of against their own community, they make black men who don't find black women attractive look like amateurs. These black guys ain't got nothing on these Asian women, trust me. Self-hate, you ain't seen self-hate yet. You don't know self-hate. Wow, you don't know self-hate. Like, boy, the things. Oh dear. Yeah. So that's that scenario. And by the way, yes, I've dated mostly outside of my race, but I haven't dated exclusively outside of my race. You know, the few black women I have dated, to me, again, with my prejudice problem, the few black women I have dated did not have the typical black women traits, what I call black women traits, but am I going to go in that today? I may go into that. I don't know. Because I've spoken about this in my response to King Rich's video when it said King Rich's black guys don't want us. I spoke about my issues there. So am I going to talk about today? I don't know. Maybe. Anyway, so we're going to go on to downside number 3 after this segment here. Right, so downside number 3, children. Now, it depends on, of course, who you have a child with. Like if you have a child with a non-black woman and who is non-white, that has its own situations as such. But let's talk about the most common interracial mixture, black-white. So the problem with that, again, a lot of it depends on how much of a role you play as the father. If you're around, if you're married, how much of a role you play in that child's upbringing. But let's just say it's an unfortunate situation where the white woman is a single mother, right? Now, the downside with that is your mixed race child in years to follow, when they, you know where I'm going with this, when they go to school and they experience racism, which is more likely than not, right? Especially if they live outside of London. Big time if they live outside of London. You guarantee they're gonna get it as guaranteed as the sun's gonna shine. Sorry for the notifications. The white woman would be should be inadequate to deal with that situation. That child, excuse my language, that child will be effed, because again, her experience in racism, especially, oh my God, and oh, God forbid if she's white middle class as well, then even worse. Her qualification to deal with that situation is 0. Likewise, if I had to be a police detective for a day, I wouldn't have a clue in looking for clues to solve that crime. And I would become, me being a police detective, I'd become like your average white person in terms of my experience in racism, right? So they'll be least equipped to handle that situation. And then, yeah. However, now, I'm a father of 3, grandfather of 2. my daughter, her mum's biracial, and my two boys, I mean, like I wish I had a child with one mother, but unfortunately the cookie didn't crumble that way. So I've got three well, one teenager and 2 adults with 3 women, right? So, and then my 2 boys are mixed race, but both their mums are white. But lucky for them, they've got me around, and I play I'm not obviously I'm not married to any of them, any of their mothers, but I've played a huge part in their life. I've had the father-daughter chats, I've had the father-sons chat. So when my sons has come across situations, and both of them don't live in London, when I have come across situations, I am there for them, and I've solved the situation, and I've spoken to them about that. So so that's scenario that's downside number 3. Now, before I finish, there's a few things I want to touch on. I was watching a video by King Riches as well, and he was also talking about the mixed relation, interracial dating thing, and he said, like, some guys, they don't want to talk about black issues when they're with a woman who's non-black, and it's like as though the whole black thing is invisible. Like I said at the beginning, I am not most black guys. I am not most guys, not most black, even black guys if you want, because regardless who I'm with, right, my blackness comes with me. I tell the women about black inventors. I tell them about Asian empires. I tell them about the mishaps with the purpose defacing of let's say Egyptian statues of Kemet, the actual proper word. I tell them about how the ancient Greeks described the ancient Kemets, ancient Egyptians, of dark skin and black skin and so forth. I tell them all about that. I tell them about social issues. I talk about obviously my experiences as such. So like I said, they get my blackness as well. In many cases, I've even taught them lessons and stuff. I remember like the Italian woman in question, she didn't even know that rock and roll or rock music was music of black origin. You know, I put out so many. She said that she learned so much that she would never have learned if she was with a white guy. Right, now I mentioned white privilege along the way, and for the benefit of any white person who's struggling to make ends meet, who's working long, horrible hours in horrible conditions, and they don't live in accommodation that they would like to live in, which probably counts for most of us, really, to be honest with you. Most of us would prefer to be living somewhere else. But anyway, the point still stands. So you, my friend, white privilege. If you've got a problem with the term white privilege, I can understand why you would have a problem with white privilege if it hasn't been explained to you properly. Now, I appreciate the fact that, you know, you're not earning the best living and you're struggling to make ends meet, and you might even live in a S-hole. I'm trying to be better. I'm trying not to swear so much. Okay, right. So white privilege, where you are privileged, even though you don't experience a privileged life as far as you are concerned, right? And I could see that, right? If me and you were stopped by the police in a traffic offence, statistically, you would fare better from that situation than I would. That is your privilege. If me and you were to end up in court, charged for the same crime, statistically, I would get a harsher sentence than you would. That is your privilege. If me and you were to go for a job with equal qualifications, statistically, you are more likely to get the job. That is your privilege. If me and you were to travel around the world looking for accommodations like a hotel or getting somewhere to live, especially in parts of East Europe and the Mediterranean, chances are you'd have an easier time achieving that than I would. that is where your white privilege kicks in. If we had to get a television contract, appear on television or appear on the front of a magazine, right, with all things equal, in terms of physically equal, right, statistically, you are more likely to get the contract than I would. That is your white privilege. So the obvious question is, knowing what you know, why do you still get involved in interracial dating if you know what you know? Well, I will answer that question with a question. Or shall I say, I will answer that question with a set of questions. Okay, let's be honest and put yourself in my situation with my lived experience. Okay, so though you find black women attractive and you've dated a few, but in your life experience, now and again, you get choosing signals from black women. Every now and again, once in a while, you may get one that may smile at you, but very far and few in between. But compared to all the other women, non-black, you get smiled at and flirted with hell of a lot more times. So much so that you've actually forgotten how many times this has happened. You've had women approach you on the dance floor, even when it comes to, say, maybe on dating apps, it's more non-black women that gives you the likes and gives you the thumbs up more than black women. When you went to Poland as a pro dancer, you was treated akin to a film star, despite the fact that you're not a Tyrone, you're not a Chad, you're not an 8 or 9 out of 10, but you still garnered a whole lot of attention when you was in Poland. Three times you went out there. On 3 occasions, the welcome was overwhelmingly warm. Contrast to your parents' island in Grenada in 1985 to 1988, when in those times you went, you were told black and ugly. Poland, film star. Grenada, black and ugly. You've had 1 or 2 occasions, mostly on YouTube, black women have said to you, "Oh, Ron, you're ugly, you won't be missed." You've had on YouTube white women calling you gorgeous. So let's be honest. Where would your instincts be drawn to? As a human being, you're going to be drawn towards warmth and kindness. So even though you are aware of your black history, you're aware of your surroundings, you're aware of the things that happened in your culture, your life or your lived experience is your lived experience. So Dr. Umar Johnson could come on YouTube and say how much a black man needs to be with a black woman, and I understand. Oops. I was just going through the editing and I realized the last clip ended short. So let me carry on what I was saying. I was saying it's okay for Dr. Umar Johnson to say, you know, a black man needs to be with a black woman. And I understand that. I understand what he's saying. I see the logic in a lot of what he says. However, I cannot ignore my lived experience. And I also have to take in consideration his life experience is in the United States of America. My lived experience is here in the UK. And there is differences between here and America. I mean, something I failed to mention, which has kind of got nothing to do with it in a way, but I find this is more with my prejudice issues. This is more to do with my issues rather than the downside of the interracial dating. But I'll still tell you about another part of my prejudice problem. When I'm here in the UK, because of my lived experience, I'm not that inspired to approach black women. I know that I'm being unfair. I know I'm being judgmental, and I put my hands up. I am wrong for that. Right. So that's my thing to carry. That's my issue to fix. However, when I'm in America, it's the reverse. I have issue with white America because my prejudice problem says that white America is the racist mecca of the world. So I'm a bit cautious approaching a white woman in America because I think, whoa, then, you're even if I'm in a cosmopolitan city like New York, I'm still very cautious when it comes to say white women and as such because white people, I'm sorry, you have a bad reputation out there in America, all right? So again, I apologize for being judgmental, whereas the black women and the Latino, and let's talk about the black women, because of my English accent, I find I get a very, very good reaction from the black women in America. So it's kind of now, I'm kind of the reverse. The same way how I would approach a white woman here in the UK is the same speed I would approach a black woman in America. He said, because the response I get from black women is so much better than the black women here in the UK. So he said, there you go. and all the intimate situations I have been involved with in America has been with black women. So there you go. But that's just my issues. Now let's get back onto the downside of interracial dating. So I'm going to finish off with something that I struggle to say her name, Mariah Carey said. Now, for those of you who don't know, she has a black father, and she said that growing up in school in America, when it comes to biracial children, she said that as long as the mixture isn't with black people, she said it's seen as quite exotic, and it's something that's admired. But she said the problem seems to arise when there's black in the mix. So that's another problem with that's another downside with interracial dating. And I hope you enjoyed my honesty. I've been pretty open, even though I have dated mostly outside my race. I am big enough to admit and recognize there is still downsides. With life, there's pros and cons with everything. And I'm big enough to point out the pros in something that I'm enjoyed and enjoy in, and something I'm greatly involved with. So there you go. So thank you very much for stopping by and watching my video. Okay, good night. I've got to go to bed. Okay, bye.
Welcome to the Tales from the Little Black Book, one man's journey on the dating scene. Make yourselves comfortable, strap yourselves in, for this journey will have twists and turns, bumps and lumps, turbulence and joyrides. For the most part, I'm just an ordinary man, but the journey I've been on is anything but ordinary.